David is 47. 5 philosophers and named the pattern and located its source. He still closes the folder. I brought in William James, the psychologist who proved that insight without action doesn't build toward change. It rehearses the opposite. By the end, James will show David that his nervous system has been keeping a different record than his mind.
The house is quiet. Kids are in bed. My wife's working on something in the other room. I've got the laptop open, the folder right there. The hard part's been done for a while now. I'm going through what still needs tightening. I know exactly where things stand, and at some point, something just stops. I close it. Same time I always close it. Nothing dramatic. I don't know what to do with it.
What did you do after the last time you talked with someone about this pattern?
I've been in a few of those conversations. One basically said, I was waiting to feel ready. Like that was just going to arrive on its own eventually. Another walked me through all of it and showed me I wasn't present in any of it. I understood both. I mean, I can watch myself do it now. I see what's coming. And it still happens.
The conversations where you saw it clearly. What happened after? That day, that evening? Not what did you resolve? What did you do?
I keep going back to this one section. There's a framing question about how the whole thing opens, whether it holds. I told myself I was checking it. I was reading the same 3 lines. The next thing I knew, I'd closed it.
Not what you were thinking. What did you do? No matter how full a reservoir of maxims one may possess, and no matter how good one's sentiments may be, if one have not taken advantage of every concrete opportunity to act, one's character may remain entirely unaffected for the better. Every time you had the insight and nothing followed it, nothing you could put in your hands, nothing you could measure, your nervous system made a record. It recorded, this is where movement ends. That is not a failure. That is a working system. You have been optimizing it every time toward exactly that result. The question I'm interested in is whether it is the experiment you meant to run.
This isn't a problem I have at work. There's a problem. There's a deadline. Someone needs it done by a certain time, and it gets done, usually before. The work disappears when it goes right, which is most of the time. I don't sit around waiting to feel like the right person. There isn't time for that.
At work, who decided you were the right person for the problem?
Someone else. There's a task. There's a name on it. I'm still working out the right conditions for the other thing. I know how that sounds. It still sounds like the correct thing to do.
And for the folder on your laptop, who decides that? The analysis was never going to get you there. Not because it's wrong, you're good at it. The analysis is probably correct. But there's a class of decision, a real choice, one you can't hold off deciding without that being its own decision, that the analytical faculty cannot close.
But, isn't that what analysis is for?
The evidence isn't incomplete. The tool you've been using to process the evidence is not the tool that makes this call. That call belongs to a different faculty, the will, not the analysis. Our passional nature not only lawfully may, but must decide an option between propositions, whenever it is a genuine option that cannot by its nature be decided on intellectual grounds. You have been asking your sharpest instrument to do something it was not built for. It has been doing its best. It has been answering precisely. And none of the answers have been the answer. Move. You have been waiting to feel like the right person before you act like the right person. The sequence doesn't run that way. Action seems to follow feeling. but really action and feeling go together. And by regulating the action, which is under the more direct control of the will, we can indirectly regulate the feeling, which is not.
So the feeling, it's not something I can wait for.
The feeling of being the right person. It's produced by the first act and accumulates with each one after. You cannot will the feeling directly. It is not in your hands. The action is. And every evening, you've sat down waiting to feel ready. You've been waiting for something that can only exist on the other side of what you haven't done yet.
But if I go before the thing is actually...
The option doesn't wait. That's what makes it a genuine one. You can hold it open, but holding it open isn't holding it. Every day the question goes unanswered, whether to ship, whether to become the person who ships. What was true in it begins to perish. Not if you decide wrong, just if you won't decide. To say under such circumstances, do not decide, but leave the question open, is itself a passional decision, just like deciding yes or no, and is attended with the same risk of losing the truth. You are not in a protected position. You are already inside the risk. You just cannot see it moving from where you're standing.
It's not even that I think it goes badly. It's more, if it just... I don't know which would be worse. Something going wrong, or nothing happening at all.
I know that fear. I have it myself. The horror of putting something out and finding you were wrong about what it was. Look at the other side. Not the bright side, just the other side. What does the man who protects himself from that discovery cost?
I don't.
Between the last time someone named the pattern, the last time someone showed you what was happening and you understood it, and today, what did you do differently? Not what did you think differently, not what did you understand differently. What did your hands do that they hadn't done before?
Nothing. So so all of these...
Right, yes, and yes. That is not the problem. That is the data. The problem is what comes next. Your nervous system has been running this experiment for years. Insight arrives. Folder closes. The result is consistent. That is what consistent results mean. The experiment is working exactly as designed. The only remaining question is whether it is the experiment you want to keep running.
What does the different experiment look like?
The smallest possible action you can take before this insight cools. Not the right action, not the action that completes the thing or announces anything to anyone. Any action. Something your hands can do before your mind finishes finding the reason they shouldn't. That is the counter data point. 1. Your nervous system does not care about the scale of the thing. It cares about what happens after the charge fires. One time, you let the body move first. Then you see what the next experiment looks like from there. Be not afraid of life. Believe that life is worth living, and your belief will help create the fact. You already know what it is. You named it in the first thing you said.
The folder.
A resolution that isn't followed by an action within the first hour, the pathway that fired begins to weaken. The habit of comprehension without movement is reinforced by one more pass. The experiment runs exactly as it has run every prior time. The next action is already loaded.
David hadn't been failing to act despite understanding. He had been using understanding as the action, and every time it landed without anything following it, the body recorded, "This is where movement ends." 5 conversations, 5 rounds of clarity. The nervous system recorded each one the same way. James named the mechanism, not the wound. Act faithfully, and you really have faith, no matter how cold and even how dubious you may feel. This channel exists for the man who recognized, watching this, that leaving this episode understood rather than acted upon is itself the experiment running one more time. If that's you, subscribe, leave a comment. There's more work to do. StillWater Man.